Chapter 4. Voltage is the work obtained or energy released when a unit of charge moves from a more positive point to a more negative point and is measured in volts. Current is the rate of charge flow and is measured in amperes. Resistance is the opposition to current and is measured in ohms. Ohm's law states that current is equal to voltage divided by resistance. Voltage is equal to current times resistance, and resistance is equal to voltage divided by current. You can also use a power wheel and set it up like this, where voltage is equal to current times resistance. Resistance is voltage divided by current, and current is voltage divided by resistance. Ohm's law states what is the hot resistance of the bulb, so we can use Ohm's law, divide the voltage by the current. So it's 115 divided by 0.87 amps, which will give 132 ohms. Graph of current and voltage. This graph represents the current voltage characteristics for a fixed resistor. What is the resistance? All you need to do is pick a voltage point. If you pick 10 volts, at 10 volts you have approximately 3.9 or 3.8 milliamps. Divide that out. It comes out to 2700 or 2.7 K. What is the conductance? Conductance is 1 over the resistor value, so it's 1 divided by 2700. Application of Ohm's law. The resistor that we're looking at is green, blue, brown, and gold. What should the ammeter read? So green is a 5, blue is a 6, brown is 10 or times 10 to the 1, so it's 560 ohms. So we would take 15 volts divided by 560 ohms and get 26.7 milliamps. Recall that power is the rate energy is converted to another form, typically heat. What power is dissipated in the resistor? So here, power, we can use voltage times current as the formula. So I would take 15 volts and multiply that by 26.7 milliamps and come out with 400 milliwatts. The kilowatt hour is a large unit of energy. What is the cost of operating a 1200 watt heater for 20 minutes if electricity sells for 15 cents per kilowatt hour? So 1200 watts is 1.2 kilowatts. 20 minutes is 1/3 of an hour. So you take 1.2 kilowatts, multiply that by 1/3 of an hour times 15 cents per kilowatt hour. So you got 6 cents that comes out to. So you take 1.2, multiply it by 0.333, and then multiply that by 15, and it comes out to 6 cents. 3 equations that are collectively known as Watt's law are: power is current times voltage, power is current squared times resistance, and power is voltage squared divided by resistance. What is the power dissipated in a 27 ohm resistor if the current is 0.135 amps? So I would take power, I squared R, I square 0.135, hit the x squared key on the calculator, times 27, and I get 0.49 watts. The 50 ohm input of a particular oscilloscope has a 2 watt resistor between the input and ground. What is the maximum voltage that can be applied to the input without exceeding the power rating? So here I need to solve for voltage. So voltage, if I multiply both sides by R, gives me V squared is P times R. And then I have to take the square root of both sides. So I end up with V is equal to the square root of P times R. So I take 2 watts times 50. That's 100. The square root of 100 is 10, so 10 volts. Nonlinear resistance. In some cases, the resistance of a component depends on the current. A light bulb is an example. The plot shows an example of an IV characteristic for a 24-volt bulb. What is the wattage rating of the bulb? Again, you pick 2 points off the graph and use the formula. If the applied voltage is less than 24 volts, what happens to the resistance? Well, it's smaller by looking at the graph. To find AC resistance, divide a small change in voltage by the corresponding change in current. So here we need to find a change in X divided by a change in Y. So you just pick 2 points on the curve, and to find the change, you just do a subtraction from one point to the next. So from here, the change we're looking at is 20 volts over 0.414 amps. Here the change in X from this point to that point is approximately 10 volts. So you get 67 ohms, and this over here has a higher resistance, which is 367. Ohm's law is a fundamental law of electricity that states that the current in a circuit is proportional to the applied voltage and inversely proportional to the resistance. Conductance is the reciprocal of resistance, and its measure is the ability of a material to conduct current. Kilowatt hour is an amount of energy equivalent to a power level of 1 kilowatt maintained for 1 hour. It's equal to 3.6 million joules. Watt's law is a law that states the relationships of power to current, voltage, and resistance. DC resistance is the resistance of a device found by dividing the voltage at some point by the corresponding current. The AC resistance is the resistance at a point on the IV curve for a device if a small change in voltage is divided by a corresponding change in current. And you can take the quiz.